Hi, and welcome to Focus on Framingham. This is show number 8. We're recording this on August 22nd, 2018. I'm your host, Mike Cunningham, and let's get going on the show. I've been off for a few, maybe like 2 months, just kind of renovating the studio, even though I'm sure it looks exactly the same as it does before, but I have made some improvements, especially so it doesn't get so hot in here while I'm doing the show. The summer was kind of quiet in Framingham. Some people might argue with me on that, but there wasn't a whole lot of news going on. So I've collected some of the news. Some of this news goes back a few weeks. But what's nice about that is then we can kind of do take a look back and see how that turned out. So when I first started collecting news for this show, my first story was that the Mayor Spicer appoints 5 people to the Cable Advisory Committee. So at this time, this was on July 8th, and the people that were appointed were the current chair, Annabelle Dodd, current member, Norma Schulman, Audrey Hall for 3 years, William Radkin for 2 years, and Glenn Axelrod for a 2-year term. And the point, so this is reported by the Framingham Source. The Cable Advisory Committee is appointed by the mayor to ensure that the provisions of the City 3 cable television contracts are implemented. Basically, they kind of collect all the complaints from the from the city, and when they do a contract renewal, they will try to get those things fixed before the contract goes in. But more importantly, they also kind of hammer out how the pig stations will be funded and what other facilities, I guess you can say, will be provided. For example, the HD programming, the high definition channel on all 3 carriers and things like that, which we've talked about in the past. I think the next one to come up, I think, is Comcast. So I'm sure you'll hear me talking about that in the future here. We have Comcast, RCN, and Verizon in the town. They're all required to carry the public, educational, and government programming. But then this happened. The Framingham City Council votes to reject all mayoral nominations to the volunteer committees. And this is also reported on, this is on the 17th, reported, this is from the source, Framingham Source. In a unanimous vote, the 11-member City Council voted to reject all the nominations submitted to the council by Mayor Yvonne Spicer. Let's see, the mayor's office had submitted the names back on June 29th, and the source had been posting these names, like the ones I just read. The city councilors found some irregularities between the 2 submissions. And also, I think that the other city councilors questioned if all the boards, committees, and commissions were ever advertised. So that kind of made things a little screwy for that. And here, Framingham Source lists some of those boards, including the Cable Advisory Council, Framingham Cultural Council, the Economic Development and Industrial Commission, the Framingham's Historic District Commission, and the Framingham's Parks and Recreation Commission. So since this happened, I'm not exactly sure what... Oh, that's interesting. So Councillor Tully Stoll said that after the mayor appointed an all-white Framingham Traffic Commission, she offered to help the mayor. She turned me down. That's interesting. So I haven't been able to find out what's happened with this since. Unfortunately for the show, maybe they've gone ahead and re-advertised them and resubmitted them. I don't know. I couldn't find any information. But admittedly, I didn't look very hard, so it's possible that it did happen. If it did, I'll bring it up in the next show. So moving on, let's see, this was also reported in Framingham Source. A GoFundMe was established to help Framingham stabbing victim. Wednesday, July 10th, Framingham police were called to Beaver Street apartment for a 911 call about a stabbing. First responders found a woman stabbed multiple times just before 5 a.m. Police arrested Teodosio Rodriguez Ortiz that same morning. According to court records, he was charged with attempted murder and assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, a knife. A GoFundMe was established to help the stabbing victim, who has been identified as the girlfriend of the man arrested. She was transported to UMass Medical Memorial in Worcester. The GoFundMe identified her as Melissa. Let's see if I can pull this up. Medical expenses and recovery. She made, as of the end of August here, she's up to $3,200 by 42 people. Let's see if I can find a way for you to find this easily. This was created on July 13th by Jamie Lee on behalf of Marlene Jackson. It's listed as location as Millbury, MA. So you can look for that. It says Melissa's medical expenses plus recovery. So if you want to donate, feel free. Help her out. Diner 417 suffers a system failure. This was updated by Framingham Source. Framingham Restaurant announces it's closed for the summer. Not usually a good sign, because sometimes closed for the summer is code for we're closing for good. So we'll see. Framingham Restaurant announced this afternoon, July 23rd, that it'll be closed for the rest of the summer. Announced on social media that it had an uncontrollable system failure. The Depot 417, formerly known as the Deluxe Depot Diner, said it will reopen in September. The restaurant, as you may know, is located at the intersection of Route 126 and 135 at the train station. Our air conditioning system is shot, needs a full replacement, and the heat is affecting our refrigerators. Okay. Well, I can't imagine that it would take all summer to get new air conditioning, but that was... I guess they got a nice summer vacation. So we'll see in September if they reopened. Here's a story from Metro West Daily News. Bren Donnelly is booted from the downtown Framingham. Tony, this is in Framingham. This was updated on August 6th. Tony Amberlinick kept the legacy of the Brandonley shoe repair alive for more than 15 years before being evicted by a developer building apartments. Since 1931, the shop had been the go-to place to get shoes, boots, and other leather goods repaired in downtown Framingham. I can't say this guy's name. It's Abamelik. Bought the shop from Emilio and Virginia Brandonley, who ran it for 45 years. A lot of people don't believe it. Limnek said of the closing, I'm talking about 87 years. Who else has been in business for 87 years? He was told to leave the space at the end of May. Being too young to retire, he now shares space in his brother Oleg's shoes repair shop on Pond Street in Natick. My customers are coming here now, Limnek said. We're getting older and we work together now, so we don't have much work. Have to work too much. In the coming weeks, VTT management of Framingham is set to start construction of 75 apartments on the corner of Union Avenue and Proctor Street after the commercial Crouch building, which holds several businesses, is knocked down. I'm not sure if that's happened yet. Be done in the cloak of night. It was an alleyway and illegally built without a permit. Oh, what's this about? Let's see. I skipped a section here, but this sounds interesting. Varios Theodoricus, VTT founder and CEO, planned to build around the shop and never intended to force and let out. However, structural engineers determined that the original owners of the shop jerry-rigged the 300 square foot space between the Crouch and Wilsona buildings with beams and railroad ties, and no one either noticed it or enforced it. Oh, that's interesting. It was done in the cloak of night. It was an alleyway and illegally built without a permit. The outside walls of the two buildings are the inside walls of his shop, Theodoric said. I own properties all over the country and I've never seen anything like this. This space does not meet code and has no alarm system, heating, or restroom. There's no way to demolish the Crouch building without the space collapsing. So that's what happened. That's really interesting. I have never heard of that happening, but I guess around the early part of the last century, they managed to sneak this building in between two other buildings in downtown Framingham in the middle of the night. So there's not a whole lot you can do about that. So anyways, I guess if you need to have your shoes fixed, you need to go to his other location in Natick. That's an interesting story. So moving on to my friend Jim Pillsbury's column here in the Metro West Daily News, and he'll be very happy to see me put this graphic up that I made, if I can find it. So this is the marijuana section of the program. Jim Pillsbury wrote an interesting column. This was an opinion published by the Metro West Daily News. And I'll just read a little bit of it. Next week at the Framingham City Council meeting, members will be presented with options to restrict cannabis sales and the locations and amount of retail shops, including accessory shops. Voters back in 2016 overwhelmingly passed Question 4, which directed the state to regulate cannabis like we do alcohol. In the later days of 2016, in secret behind closed doors, a few House representatives and a few senators, along with State President Stanley Rosenberg and House Speaker Robert DeLeo, decided to rewrite the ballot question and replace it with their own version. Governor Charlie Baker, who was against the legalization of cannabis, signed it in the 11th hour with the law. It was passed by 1.8 million voters, was repealed and replaced with what we have today, sheer chaos. In 2016, the Board of Selectmen in Framingham decided to punt the issue to the new city form of government. We are still debating the issue 2 years later. This past week, the Board of Health held a meeting in which they decided to restrict the amount of accessory shops to 4, and the city suggested to the council that there'd only be 3 retail shops. The reasons for this reduction, retail accessory shops, bears a similar tone to what happened 81 years ago when the first drug czar, Henry Anslinger, was appointed, and his sole mission was to demonize the hemp plant by using racism, bigotry, propaganda to win favor from his wealthy friends. So he kind of does then a background on Reefer Madness, kind of the background on that, which you can read online. But basically, he kind of makes the point that they might be kind of overreacting here. They're using terms like lives are at stake, public health issues, abuse potential, not totally safe. Would it be dangerous to children? So little scientific evidence and whatnot. So he ends it with, the Board of Health has overstepped its authority in overregulating a voter-approved state law, fabricated their own brand of modern-day reefer madness, and have ignored the will of the voter largely due to propaganda, junk science, institutional bias, and misinformation, just like Anslinger did 81 years ago. So I don't know if they have made the final decision on that. I thought that it was something like 4. I read another opinion written by, I think, one of the other city councilors about how the board felt that, it shouldn't be up to the public. The board knows better. But this sounded like something that might, have to be voted by the people, depending on what they're trying to do here. So that's kind of a wait and see type of situation. So again, this is Focus on Framingham. I'm your host, Mike. And if you want to check out more episodes of Focus on Framingham, you can visit us on our website at focusonframingham.tv, or you can email me at mike@focusonframingham.tv. If you have any questions, comments, if you want me to if you have an issue with something that I say and you'd like me to correct a statement, I'd be more than happy to read anything on the air. So feel free to email me at that address if you have any questions. So let's see. Saxonville Mills is having a movie night in September. This was reported a few days ago by Framingham Source. The Saxonville Mills will be hosting an outdoor movie night in September. The complex will screen the movie Zookeeper, starring Kevin James, in the courtyard on September 15th after sunset. It's around 7:15 p.m. Parking is available at the end of Watson Place. Artists and vendors will have booths in the courtyard from 5 to 7. Trolley dogs and Jack Abbeys will be on site. Ooh, according to the organizers. Rain date is September 22nd. Bring chairs and blankets as the courtyard is paved. So, if you're into movies and you're into that movie, that would be worth checking out. Framingham Frogs, the Framingham City swim team, which has kids, I think, ages 6 to 17. They ended their season in second place in the suburban swim meet. They had their finals on Saturday, August 11th. Susan Petroni was there covering this, I believe, in Newton. The Framingham Frogs finished second to the City of Newton in the A Regional Meet in the Summer Suburban League on Saturday, August 11th. Newton won the meet with 378 points. Framingham captured a second place with 312. Now, Newton is a big team, and they are really tough to beat. So, Walpole took in third with 145 points. The Bluefish of Newton also won the regular season title, finishing the season undefeated. Framingham finished the season 10-1 under head coach Sean O'Leary. Their only loss was to Newton. Last year, the Frogs won the regular season title, going undefeated, 11-0. The City of Framingham co-ed summer swim team has more than 200 boys and girls aged 5 to 18 on the team. Top swimmers competed at the A Regional Meet by qualifying with times in the freestyle, butterfly, breaststroke, and backstroke. Individual results were not available as of the publishing. Source will publish a report when they're available. There's 12 teams competed in the A Regional Meet on Saturday at the Gath Pool in Newton. So congratulations to the Framingham Frogs. Here's a story that just came up today, or yesterday. This is reported by a source who had a lot of information. So if you want, I'm not going to read the whole article, obviously, but there's a rather in-depth bit of information here about this. One of the City of Framingham's 5 licensed commissioners has resigned. Commissioner John Freitas submitted his resignation this month. He was nominated to the city's first ever commission by Mayor Spicer on December 29th, 2017, just days before she was sworn in as the city's first mayor. So, City Council Chair Dennis Giambetti told Source that he was unaware of the resignation and that the mayor had not communicated the resignation to the City Council. Source noticed that there were just 4 names on the letterhead. So, since late June, Framingham Source has been investigating a possible Commonwealth of Massachusetts conflict of interest violation in the appearance of conflict violation by Frida while serving as a member of the Framingham License Commission. In June, a couple of public and elected officials, as well as source, witnessed Frida's behind the bar at China Gourmet on Route 9 in Framingham. Source that night also watched Frida's pour a beer from the tap behind the bar and served it to customers sitting at a table. Anyone who serves alcohol in the city should be tip certified. Framingham Police Lieutenant Mike E. Saibia said Frida's does not have a tip certification filed with the Framingham Police. Frida's, when contacted by the news media outlet last month, said he and his wife were consulting with the owner of China Gourmet, a Framingham restaurant which granted its license by the Framingham Commission. So Frida's told source he was not being paid for the work, but I guess the issue here is, and Susan has it, there's some Massachusetts laws that prohibit kind of this type of stuff. So public employees are prohibited from knowingly or within reason to know using or attempting to use their official positions to secure themselves or others unwarranted privileges of substantial value that are not properly available to similarly situated individuals. Substantial value has been set at $50 or more by the courts. Public employees under this law also include someone who served on an appointed board. Massachusetts law prohibits a public employee from acting in a manner which would cause a reasonable person having knowledge of the relevant circumstances to conclude that any person can improperly influence or unduly enjoy the public's employee's favor of the performance of his or her official duties. So I guess this is basically because he is on a board that oversees the liquor licenses. There could be a conflict of interest there. So that was a really interesting news that broke. So our next story is more of a graphic that I'm going to put up. And this one is actually for my wife, because this is one of her big pet peeves. No plastic bags in the recycling cart. Do not bag recyclables. Collecting recyclables in a bag, empty the contents into the cart, and you can return the plastic bags to retailers. Take down that bug. The Framingham Public Works has had an ongoing campaign the last few months for this type of information, and also for cleaning your recycled stuff, because if you throw stuff in your recycling bin dirty, they can't recycle it, and it might get other stuff dirty, and they can't recycle that stuff either. So it's important that you clean your recycled items before you put them in the bin. I cringe sometimes when I see a recycling bin clearly just filled with trash and that somebody just used it as a trash bin. I don't know why people would do that, but it happens. So don't do that. That just costs more money and makes recycling harder. So that was sort of my PSA on recycling. Let's see. We've got about 5 minutes left in the show, so I'm going to run through some other stories here. This is from Patch.com. Framingham restaurant owner verbally and physically attacked. Asian Framingham business owner was allegedly verbally attacked and then put in a chokehold. This was kind of an interesting story here. Framingham, a man is facing charges after he and his friend allegedly assaulted the owner of a Framingham restaurant last weekend. So an officer working security detail at Samba Steak and Sushi on Saturday spotted him, and this is on August 4th, spotted a man around 1:20 a.m. get thrown out of Samba, sent down the stairs. A short time later, another man was escorted out. Tanyan Santos was told to get the F out. Santos had been yelling back at the security guards and other Samba customers who were smoking cigarettes. So Samba owner Xing Zhang ran out the front door, upset and red in the face, said police. He said the man wearing the blue shirt had just tried to kill him. Someone had a chokehold on Zhang at one point, according to the security guard. Zhang told the police that Gonclaves had made a comment about him being Asian and having a small penis, and the two got into a verbal argument. That's when Zhang said Gonclaves, this is the guy that got arrested, I believe. Actually, I'm not sure. Gonclaves' friend came up from behind. Oh, so this was the friend of the guy that got arrested, I think. So his friend came up from behind him, put him in a chokehold. Zhang told the police that he thought he was going to die during it, his eyes fluttering and on the verge of passing out. So Tanyan Delema Santos, 20, Kelly Court of Brighton, was arrested and charged in attempted murder, assault and battery, and disorderly conduct. Well, isn't that special? Framingham Zoning Board member, they vote to reject the mayoral nomination to the Zoning Board of Appeals. This was on August 21st. Citing a lack of experience for the full-time membership positions, the Framingham City Council reject Mayor Yvonne Spicer's slate of nominees for the Zoning Board of Appeals tonight. This is in the Framingham Source. Many councilors state several of the employees would be outstanding associate members to the ZBA, but not full members. Zoning Board of Appeals is comprised of three full members and 4 associate members. It's a quasi-judicial board, whatever that means. So that was interesting. Metro West Daily News reported a few days ago, a set of local businesses were barred from selling tobacco products for 3 consecutive days after being hit with suspensions by the Board of Health. Auto Bright Car Wash, CGN Distribution, and Walgreens Pharmacy failed a recent round of compliance checks in June, selling tobaccos to a person younger than 21, the minimum age to buy cigarettes in the city. The board also levied fines of $100 on the businesses. A new set of tobacco regulations that went into effect in Framingham in July includes stiffer penalties of $300, but board members opted against imposing the higher fines since the violations occurred before the new rules became effective. Auto Bright, let's see. Victor Ortiz is one of the so I think there was an issue here. Victor Ortiz is a Framingham resident and a member of the planning board. He understands the city alcohol and tobacco rules and was caught off guard. But basically, I think he had to resign from the board because of this. So, again, people need to kind of be on the lookout. If you're selling tobacco, you need the card. Under the city rules, clerks are required to card anyone attempting to buy cigarettes or other tobacco products who looks younger than 27. Okay. It's an interesting designation there. Not sure which Walgreens. Oh, it's the Walgreens on 624 Waverly Street was the one that sold the tobacco and was fined. So I think that wraps up today's show. Thanks for watching, and we'll do another show hopefully in a week or two. I've been your host, Mike Cunningham, and thanks for watching Focus on Framingham.